Residents, go in and stay in your houses. Drive the rats in the tank area.
What's up on this malevolent Monday? See, I'm almost able to put it. I'm almost able to put it into song. We're not sure what our software is doing right now, but apparently on Hoofbeast's end, he can turn his screen into disco.
Fucking black magic.
I mean, you know, Harry Potter ain't got shit on him, right? Welcome to yet another edition of Tracks of the Damned, and the kind of fun that we're gonna have after you got fucking slaughtered at work today, probably, or if you were like me, who this is the only day off and I still had to work because you know, I do a lot of computer work, so but here we are. We are ready to give you a great fucking show. And we're talking about a band that we've touched upon in various settings, but never this intimate. And we're talking about the awesome motherfucking Mastadon and what we kind of feel is our ranking as far as top 5 records. They've had a great, very long career, still going very strong. I feel like they've got quite a future ahead of them, and we are ready to get down to it. But before we get into all that business, you know what time it is. We got to check in with our brothers over at Villain Arts Tattoo Conventions. Check it out. Maybe. Now. That's fucking right. Uh-oh. Human Hoof Beast went sideways on us.
Yeah, somebody's cursing me now.
I know. He's got so much magic. He's fucking upside down now. But any hoozle, if they are coming your way, check out Villain Arts Tattoo Conventions as they come into your city. Get yourself a majorly good fucking piece of tattoo art and take in all of the great vendors and all the great performers. Now, while my esteemed co-host is coming back, so let's see what happens now. He still looks like he's upside down, and he is still sideways. All right. That's okay, though. I'm not sure. Oh, there he is. He's right side up now. Yay. I mean, for the time being, because, you know, he's like fucking Harry Potter. He can, you know, himself into, you know, a fucking frog. All right. So first of all, before we get started here, let's go ahead and welcome all the awesome people already in the comment section. God damn. Good evening, Paul. Good evening, Mousebong, Kyler. Hey. So we are here, and we are glad that you are here with us. And we're here to talk about these jolly four guys known as Mastadon. And between the two of us, we've come up with our ranking as far as this band goes. And let me tell you, not easy. This was not an easy task by any means, because all of these records are good in their own ways, and they have definitely, I would say, creatively, from record to record, sound engineer to sound engineer, things have gotten progressively awesome. Never really heard a bad Mastodon record. Have you, Hoof Beast?
I agree 100%. Like I don't like the latter half of their albums as much. Like they've got Southern rock. I don't appreciate that as much because Braun isn't as prominent or as creative, and probably a lot of that has to do with he started taking up a lot more of the vocal role from the Crack the Sky album on, and so he has to play drums at the same time. Plus, he has got to be probably, I'd say he's probably like 45 to 50, somewhere in that range now. So he's probably thinking ahead if we're going to be playing this stuff live, because he's a madman. For the first 5 albums, especially the first 4 albums, he's a monster.
Oh, very much so. In some cases, I almost want to say overplaying a little bit, but it's still so tastefully done. And the reason I say this is because, you know, we were talking a little bit about this before broadcast, and they are considered to be so many different genres. One of them kind of falling under some of the doom metal subcategories, as sludge metal, definitely present in the latter part of their catalog. Stoner metal as well. There are some stoner elements there. Psychedelic metal as well. I would say One Key record really showcases all 3 of those. So that's why they show up on a doom metal list if you put their name in. Or not even putting their name in, but just, who is really good, or like a really good, metal band that's in the doom genre today. They do pop up. But they are also cited as being thrash metal, experimental metal, groove metal, and of course, what we all know and love, progressive. They definitely have their proggy elements. Groove metal, I think, should not be in its own category, because it kind of encompasses any metal band that incorporates groove into what they do. So I don't really consider that to be a separate thing. These so-called experts are always going to be throwing their little, 2 cents in on these things. Some of it's true. Some of it is kind of like, I think you just added that in there just to be, but they could be this. Come on, people. We're not stupid.
I agree with the sludge, but not in a doom sense, in a tone sense for their kind of prog rock. They definitely do have a sludge tone, but they don't, in my opinion, I think doom should not be attached to them. That's my opinion. I think they're real experimental prog. And in the first 4 albums, Crack the Sky is really proggy, but not
very much so.
But not as heavy as the first 4. But outstanding. They don't have a bad album, but if I don't want anybody to be misled, if you hear the word doom referred to alongside Mastodon, don't think that you're going to hear something that sounds a lot like Black Sabbath or Candlemass or Hood Menace or Temple of the Void or something like that. Like I could see it in maybe the psychedelic rock kind of that relation, because a lot of times that can be doomy. But these guys are just too busy and too quick with their, and a lot more notes than any doom I've ever heard.
Even with, you know, the first incarnation of Sabbath, there were those 3 records that went completely off of what their usual you know, shtick was as far as songwriting. So I don't know. Sometimes, I mean, doom at its roots, you know that it has to have fuzz, but it can also be chuggy, slow, like some very open air chords and stuff like that. So you really don't get that with these guys. I think people just don't know what to put them under, so that's why they kind of get labeled as that. But, you know, my thing was, and my personal opinion is, well, shit, if you're considering them this, they should be higher up on the totem pole, in my opinion, over some of these other bands, because they have a standard and have raised a bar, in my opinion, that is hard to match.
Oh, yeah. I remember the first time I heard these guys was on, I think it was VH1. And it was off of the Remission album.
The first record? Yep.
I think it wasn't Elephant Man. It was March of the Fire Ants.
Such a great title.
And when I heard that, I was just like, I haven't heard anybody like this before. I loved it. And it was Bron Daylor, him anchoring, like he really stands out. But it's also the dueling guitars and how melodic they are and how proggy they are, and just really clever guitarmanship in every one of their albums.
I cannot believe this. So Kyler says, I had someone say Master Yawn once and nearly bitch slapped them. How can you say that about this band? There is nothing too overdone or too overly technical that anyone could possibly get bored with this. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's
like
just ridiculous.
Somebody making a comment like that for Dream Theater's Metropolis albums. Like those are so technical. Like I love Dream Theater, but I don't love those albums. I don't like them. Like I like almost everything else, but not those.
Free Mangini. Sorry.
Yeah, I think Kiko Loureiro has been done wrong by Megadeth. Like that's something we might talk on about the goddamn program next time.
Oh, yes. We'll have to do an entire expose on artists that have been fired for stupid reasons.
Yeah.
In some of the biggest bands ever.
Yeah, there's a bunch. But yeah, Dave Mustaine had to come out with this whole big write-up. And I watched Ola Englund this Sunday, and he was commenting, and Ola was like even challenging Dave on the authenticity and the genuine ideas or feelings coming out of this. He called it out. It's really good. And Ola's so sweet. He's such a nice guy.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
But nonetheless, we are here to run this down in our fashion. So I will go with my number 5. And it might actually surprise some folks. I don't know. But I had to go with, and I got to make sure I'm actually missing that one. Okay. So I started off my number 5 pick as Once More Around the Sun. I myself like a good kind of heavy, but psychedelic / stoner record. And to me, this record encompasses every bit of that, but in a way that, you don't feel, now nothing against those of you that, you know, partake of the devil's lettuce or the magical mushrooms or anything, but you know, I don't feel like I have to be fucked up to appreciate this record whatsoever. It's very well done. It's got a little bit more of a straight ahead kind of grooves, kind of sort of reminiscent of some Sabbath type stuff. Um, you know, not so very laid back, but groovy, but more on the beat than kind of like behind the beat, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
The production there is fantastic. I do enjoy it because on some of their earlier records, I feel like the drums were a bit too high up in the mix, which can be a bad thing when, you know, you got these great fucking, and I'm going to probably talk about this all the way through, these amazing, you know, guitar leads that, you know, the guitar players are laying down through a lot of this stuff. So I thought the mix was just right. And you got a little bit more of a softer, almost kind of soulful voice, I think, out of the lead vocalist. And it's just, it's got its moments that is just kind of, wow, what's going to happen next? You know, this, you know, one part is rocking and then just kind of evolves into yet another, you know, I don't know, kind of composition, if you will. So I'm trying to pull it up here. Give me 1 second. And I really wish I had the, I don't know how I missed that, but the front cover of this thing, I mean, it, oh, do you have it?
Let me go grab it. It's right across over here.
It's like this evil, buggy, million eyeballs, tentacles, can't even really make its body out kind of thing. There it is. Look at that. What a fucking front cover. That thing, I swear, if you were as high as a giraffe's pussy, it would completely make you freak out and want to run. And I love it. It's horrific. You know, songs like The High Road, Asleep in the Deep, that is my jam. Just a lot of, you know, a little bit of displacement of time, some time changes, very, you know, kind of like a nice mix of the psychedelic with the prog. Very well done on this record. So that's why I chose it as my number 5.
That's a good choice. I mean, like there are 0 Mastadon albums that I think are not good. They're all really good. These guys are top of the food chain as far as metalheads and musicians go. Everybody is really, really good. 3 different vocalists.
Which is insane when you think about that. Usually it doesn't work very well in a band setting that way. I mean, unless you're the fucking Eagles.
Yeah, I would say once they like the album The Hunter. From The Hunter on, like that's really when they hit the Southern rock influence. Like there's a lot more of Southern rock, and I think that was like 2011 or 2012. From that point on, the production is precise.
Very primo.
Everything is totally on point. Sounds great. The only thing that like I don't like the way Braun's kick sound in the drums, and his toms are a little bit too muted for me compared to some of the other albums. And so, like I can hear his snare. It's always prominent.
Kind of has to be.
But his kick, I don't hear quite as much as I would like to. It sounds like the kit he's using, and this was I remember hearing from The Hunter on pretty much, like, or well, for the next 3 albums, like I just wish he would have mic'd the kick, or maybe you tune the kick drum. I'm not a percussionist, so I don't know that, but I wanted to hear it a little bit more standing out in the mix.
I think I honestly have to say, and this happens to a lot of bands that use a sludgier tone,
Mm,
because I really feel that that's the direction that they were headed, as far as overall tone. And it's very deep, dark, and nasty, which I just love it. I love every bit of it. But the thing is, though, it's hard to maintain a good kick sound in the mix when things get that low.
yeah,
It's like a fuzz that it just can't cut through. I mean, every Electric Wizard record, you know what
yeah,
I mean? You really don't hear it. You hear somewhat of more like a or a thud
yeah.
versus like a nice clean kind of ping. I don't think there's legit anything they could have done there to bring that out more unless they triggered it, and they're awesome guys, which is why they chose not to trigger that sound.
I would have liked it to be triggered so I could hear it better. Like for that.
I feel that. I am definitely one that wants to feel it and hear it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's something about that traditional sludgy kind of sound that it makes it kind of cool, and I can look past it because let's face it, the way the drums were recorded and mixed for, let's say, the third Sabbath record on, you really didn't hear much and we didn't care. But then again, we were compelled by the riff.
Mm.
So even as a drummer, we are more compelled as listeners by the riff than we are the drums. The drums come second, the riff comes first.
Yeah. Good points. Well, my number 5 is a compilation album that they did in the first 2 years before they recorded
Ooh.
and I have issues with it, but still I like it better than any of their new stuff. And I'm talking about Call of the Mastodon. This is when they were experimenting, when Bill and Braun formed the band together. These guys were on, like, they were super original. They seemed like they were fearless. They were being exactly who they were. They weren't trying anything else, and these guys were absolutely unique. And not that their later half isn't. It's unique. Mastodon is Mastodon. When you hear Mastodon, you know who they are, whether it's the
Exactly.
albums or the first 5 albums. But what I really appreciate in this is I love how they recorded Braun's uh, percussion kit, the entire kit. I can hear the kicks. The toms are really crispy and I don't know if crispy is the right word, but very punchy. And like I can hear each tom. And it's just,
Excellent attack, yes.
and what you might say, and what probably Gene Hogan would say is maybe for them it's too much all the time. But when I heard this the first time, I had already heard Leviathan, Remission, and Blood Mountain before, because they released this, I think the same year as Blood Mountain was released, 2006.
Yes. Yes.
And uh, and so it's the production is not near as good. The vocals are pretty weak in here, like they're not recorded properly. Um, it just it's like they didn't have the thrust in the vocals as well, and the vocals weren't as unique. But the guitars and what they were doing creatively with both guitars and with the drums was outstanding. And this was a groundbreaking album to me. And I would even call this is like prog, like super heavy prog, very busy all over the place, but really earthy and kind of woody sounding, if you will. And I was just taken, like, this was avant garde to me. Maybe not as weird, super weird avant garde, but super busy. And Braun Daler is king. He carries this album. His percussion is legendary in this to me. Nobody sounds like him to me. You know a lot more than I do, Reapers, but I think he's legendary on this.
It's it's very reminiscent of the Swords record called Age of Winter, because that the drummer for the Sword is very close to the drummer that is within Mastadon. Because what I look at is not necessarily just groove style, but I'm looking at the filling when you're doing that much, filling up so many spaces while there's a constant guitar lead that is, kind of a little bit up and down the neck. And just the way he does it without a whole lot of use of double kick or anything like that. But the way that they come out of it, smack right into the groove when it's time, I think is very close. So I actually have to wonder if, like, maybe those two drummers kind of influenced each other a little bit, because obviously, the drummer for Mastodon stands out quite a bit as a powerhouse, not just in filling, but in grooving at the same time with flawless transition. So I definitely will give it to him on that. And he's done it, like, I think, like we said, probably like the first four albums very consistently. Like, he's always there, but he's also always doing something very unique at the same time. He does a lot of single strokes at blinding speeds that are just so tasty. Even Dave Lombardo has to tip his hat.
Well, that's a big compliment.
And I kind of, at the same token, like, that's a lot of my flavor as well when I'm doing very busy fills. If I'm not putting double kick under them, I don't have to. It just depends on the tune. So what he's doing for those tunes on that record and those first four records, I think, are very appropriate.
Yeah, and coming out of the 90s with death metal and the importance of prominent double kicks, this was really refreshing to hear. Can you touch upon, like, when I first heard this, I knew about jazz, but I'm definitely not a jazz percussionist. But I felt like he had to have been jazz trained with the
absolutely, because he's doing a series of fills. Trying to think of the name of the song here if I can find it. It's definitely one of the earlier records. Yep, pretty sure it's Blood Mountain. The track is, I believe, Crystal Skull, where basically it just starts out with him doing the series of rolls that are so buddy fucking rich. Dare I say, even John Bonham style, where it's a series of fills where the accents are tonal between the snare, with the snare keeping like a constant roll, but he's accenting tones on his toms. So it's almost like a I want to say like a 6-stroke roll. So that's like a it's just back and forth, but it's in a series, and he's filling up like 4 bars worth to that first unison punch between him and the guitar and the bass. And it's flawless. That is definitely not a metal thing to do.
Reaper, if you had to play their set from 2006 and before, how exhausted would you be at the end?
Whew. I would definitely be winded. Because, most drummers today, especially, I know, dare I say, anything against the black metal drummers or, the deathcore drummers, their hands are not as busy as their feet are. So if they had to take the feet away, their upper arms would literally feel like Popeye by the time that they were done, if they had to fill every stroke by hand and not by foot.
Yeah, that's a good point. My favorite song on there is Welcoming War. It's the second track on the album, and it is just like, I can't help but there's tasty guitars in it. The vocals are harsh, although not as developed as they would be on the next album, in the next three.
Mhm.
But Braun just steals the show. Give it a chance. It's on Spotify, and it is Call of the Mastodon. It's a compilation of the songs that they were creating from 2000 when they got together until 2002 when they were tasked to go into the studio to create and record their second, or it's really their first release, which was Remission. So these are songs that weren't released till 2006, but it's early Mastodon. And to me, it's just outstanding. Nobody sounded like this at that time, not like this.
No, which is why I think it took them a minute to kind of sort of catch on. Because, like you said, at this time, people were getting hit with the heaviest of the heavy from like every corner of metal. So it was like the hottest thing going. And then there's this happy little fucking, on crack and steroids, good old metal band, that's a bit more, straight ahead and shit like that. And, but the thing is, you see them live, it's just like, holy shit balls. It made you listen. It made you a fan of what they were doing. So it was kind of cool how they had popped on to, some of the big metal festivals that were at the time, because that's really how they got noticed. Because here they are, 20 some years later, and they're still at it. And they're headlining their own tours.
They tour like crazy, and they put out an album about 2 years, sometimes 3 years, but almost every 2 years they put out an album. I saw them the first time on the Slipknot. They were opening up for Slipknot. That was, I think, 2007 is the first time I saw them. And they played when the sun was still out, which sucked. It was so fucking hot in Phoenix, Arizona. But that's who I went there to see. And I had just gotten into Slipknot, and I loved Slipknot's show, too. It was really, really good.
Oh, that's back when all the members gave a shit.
Yeah. Kyler Slipknot praise.
And there was much reason to. They were very exciting, very different, very hard hitting, and creatively one of the most different heavy bands of that particular point in time.
Yeah.
So for my number two, number two. God damn it, number four. So I am a big fan. That's why I said my list is probably going to surprise some people. I'm a big fan of different things. And when it comes to diminished note use in riffage, I am a huge fan of it's kind of minor, but there's like a lot of diminished tones in there to just sound odd, like they don't belong there. And it gives you this dismal feeling, like there's just nothing but dread around the corner. This album does that a lot, but at the same token, the grooves that they're using, whether they're switching from what at this point is kind of like a signature Mastodon triplet feel, dingy dugga dingy dugga dingy dugga dingy, but it's even like faster in some cases than it normally would go. I call them barn stompers when that happens, because it's just like chack, 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 chack. But all along it's these triplets going on in the riffing, and of course the drummer just follows it right through there and accents with them. It's fucking phenomenal. I love that shit. But even just all the way down to simple grooves, I mean, it's all there. I really liked the earthier sound of the drum kit on this record as well, and I thought the vocals were very good. Like I said, you might disagree with me, which is okay, because it wouldn't be the first time. But I really enjoyed Crack the Sky. That was definitely one that I felt didn't necessarily deserve to be at the top, because I don't feel that was their best. But I really did like what they did on this record. Lyrically, it's very, very kind of fantasy realm a little bit. as dark as they can do it, because they're not, synonymous with, real overly dark kind of things. But it really did kind of give me a feeling in some of the tunes on the record that, you know, whether it was words or it was riffage, just, I don't know, something about it. Just, the feeling of dread is what I'm looking for there. Songs on this record, Divinations, holy fuck. What a great tune.
Yeah.
From start to finish. And almost like my favorite, probably my favorite, it's kind of a toss-up. Oblivion, I love very, very much. But I feel like the Tsar, Usurper, Escape, Martyr, Spiral, that track right there, it's definitely the standout king on this record. But from start to finish, all the way to the Last Baron, just a very good record. Lots of good kind of prog work intertwined. But like I said, mainly in the guitars, there's a lot of that diminished notes, dissonance, all over the place. Almost reminiscent of like a psychological thriller. Did we lose him? Hello? Come back! Your mouth froze in one of the worst ways possible. Or is it me? No, he's back.
No, you went away first.
Shit, it was me? Fuck.
You were saying a lot of, and then you went out.
Damn it. No, I was just really talking about just like there was a lot of that diminished tone, dissonances, all over the place that just gave you this, like I said, almost like a psychological horror thriller film soundtrack in a lot of ways, but to metal, and I really dug it. We're back, Paul. No worries.
So I have to agree with you. That's my fourth favorite album. There's Crack the Sky.
Woohoo!
Oblivion's good, but that was not my favorite. That was the first one they released a video for, and I didn't like it because they're previewing their new style moving forward with that song.
Yeah.
Where it's not as...
No! He's back.
Okay. Yeah. Anyways, they're previewing the simplification and getting more kind of Southern rock. And I just don't prefer that as much. But the tracks that stand out to me is number one is Crack the Sky. That is a song about his sister who committed suicide, and Braun sings it. I saw them about 3 weeks after this album was released, and I was choked up because I can't imagine singing about my sister who had committed suicide. I think it was 2 years prior to this. And he wrote that whole song about her.
Oof.
And the CD that I got, it came with a DVD as well, and he talks about it. And it's...
Oh, wow. That just...
If you
pouring salt in a wound,
Yeah. If you ever get to see any of Braun Daler's interviews as well, what a sweetheart of a human being. What a nice guy. No pretension in him at all. He's super funny. Like over COVID, he did these paintings of clowns that I think I don't know. But
check that out.
Always been funny. When you get him and Bill together, they're really hilarious. And but I like that really touched me that he opened up and talked about Crack the Sky in particular. And this is the song that features him, and he has a beautiful voice too. And now he's really prominent in all of their later recordings. And it's much more easy listening when he's singing. But I watched him play this song, and I was just amazed that he was singing and playing, because this is still really complicated. When Crack the Sky came out, he was still doing all those super busy fills for everything. Like his arms are everywhere. But I love that song's one of my favorite. The Tsar is probably my second favorite, and The Last Baron is my third favorite off it. album.
Yup.
And most people who review Mastadon say that Crack the Sky is their favorite, but it was not mine. They're excellent songs. It's a great album, but it was like a 4 out of 5 stars and not even close to a 4.5 for me. Really, really good, but to me, there's two others that I would put up there as a 4.5 or a 5 out of 5 star album that are a little bit better.
For sure. It actually kind of reminds me of when I know people are going to hate me when I say this, but I did manage to catch Journey live in concert when Dean Castronovo was playing the drums for him, which he also played for Ozzy and some other pretty big names in metal from back in the olden times. And he had to sing Steve Perry on one track and play all of Steve Smith's parts for that song. And it was not an easy song to do. So it's like some of these drummers just have a way where they can just put a head mic on, do their thing, which I couldn't do. You have to have like superior breathing technique because you're sucking wind every time you go to fill and you're exerting all this upper, body strength just doing fills and moving from cymbal to cymbal, constantly moving your arms and still be able to deliver vocals. On top of that, my hat is tipped to them. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
I could never. I could never do that. We have some pretty interesting comments out here. Mousebong says, first time I saw them was in 2004 in a bar with no stage. I was 16 with a fake ID. Sorry, door guy. Well, you got one past them. And then Paul says, I had a fake ID at one time too. Those were the days. Nowadays, it's like, I don't even think young kids fuck with that shit anymore. They just pay off the door guy or dare I say anything else. So those were the days though. You do what you got to do. Excellent choice. Excellent choice. So here's where it gets even probably a little bit more tricky as far as my number 3. So with my number 3, I chose this record based on, I told you, as just from a drummer's perspective. Yes, we always have rhythms going in our heads. We're always thinking about how something sounds, but at the same time, we have riffs, like we can hear this fake guitar in the back of our mind that is chugging along with whatever we got going through our heads, right? The one thing I can say about this particular record is, number one, the production is fucking fantastic. I loved it all the way around. Very extra proggy, I might add, on this particular record. And the fact that it has very prominent epic riffs. And this one is, if I can get it, nope, hold on. The Hunter. Listening to this record was pretty easy for me because, like I said, epic-wise, the riffs are just amazing. The fretwork, the leads that are going on in there in some of these intros, they were just so beautiful, so melodic. And then when everybody comes together, it's like that much bigger, and they're off and running. I really love that about this record. And all of the time changes. I mean, they're just perfect. Nothing too crazy, but I mean, just the kind of amount of crazy that I like when things kind of go out of time. But you can still groove along with it. Nobody could say that about a lot of orchestral pieces. Like, yeah, I can really kind of bop to 5/8 into 12/8 and then back to 2/8. No, this is fucking Mastodon, and you go on this ride with them, and you fucking love it. So choices for me as far as the songs on this one. This one came out in 2011. Black Tongue is probably the best track they could have possibly have let off with. It's just nasty, but it's nasty goodness all the way around. So between that one, Blasteroid, Stargasm is fantastic. I absolutely love that one. Oh, I don't know. I almost have to say it's like one of probably my favorite track. Octopus Has No Friends. So fucking good. Not just because the title makes me giggle, but because the song is just amazing. And Dry Bone Valley. But again, this is start to finish an excellent record. And strangely enough, there's 13 tracks. That's a lot for most people.
Yeah.
But, it's only a 53-minute, album. So it's like you can hang with literally every track on it because they're fucking fantastic. And they're not all of them are like, 6, 7, 8, 12 minutes. But some of them, it's just like one leads into another. It's just like one big magnus opus.
This is an album that, as I was anticipating it, The Hunter, I was worried that they were going to go down this Southern rock. And they did. Because I so much liked the hyper complexity, the hyper intensity of the previous ones. But having said that, they've never made a bad album. I just didn't like the direction as much. There's still good songs. I rocked this one quite a bit, but just I like that.
I have to wonder if they were just very influenced possibly at the time by, let's say, Down, Corrosion of Conformity, maybe a little bit of I Hate God, because those guys were really kind of like the kings of softer metal that was very Southern with like a very Southern kind of feel to it. Because, you did get some of that with this, but still very different. Still, to me, I couldn't put it next to another album and say these two records sound the same.
Well, I remember when this came out, and it was Brent Hines led a lot of the kind of changes to come about, and a lot of his guitar style playing. He's the Southerner in this band. Ron and Bill are not. And so Savannah has a whole bunch of sludge bands. Baroness.
Oh, yeah.
Baroness used to be more proggy than they are now. Now they're a lot more rock and roll kind of in this style. Iron Tusk, or is it Black Tusk or Iron Tusk? I think it's Black Tusk. I think it's Black.
I think it's Black Tusk.
Yeah, Black Tusk. What's the Kylesa? They have a female vocalist some of the time, especially in the latter. But a lot of this kind of Savannah sludge, which was nearby Atlanta, I think they were. I watched the making of this album, and they were kind of grabbing a hold of that. And they did talk about how busy it was and bringing Braun into singing a lot more. And it's just maybe too much. Like, imagine an hour and a half set when they're headlining for Braun to do that every night when he's in his 40s, 50s. Oh my gosh. All right.
Takes a special musician, I'll tell you that.
My number 3 is where they got the vocals. The vocals are very harsh still, and it's Braun is not singing yet, so it's Brent Hines, but mostly Troy is handling a lot of the harsh vocals. And they have some long songs on this, more melodic than Call of the Mastodon. They're
Mhm.
more thoughtful, a little bit more tasty. My favorites are Trilobite, which are melodic and beautiful. Trainwreck, which is beautiful, massive, and expansive, really epic sounding. It has a really big feel. Burning Man, fast and pummeling. Braun is going off on this song. He goes off on every song, though. Old, Ness-
Right.
Old Nessie has just maybe even more pronounced time changes with what they do with the melodicism. And just I'm talking about Remission. This is the
Nice.
first album that I heard from them. It's the kind of weird Pegasus horse, something Pegasus horse. And when I heard this, I just thought, this is so unique. Very, very unique. This is when I listened to this when I was coming out of my time with Jesus. Thank you. You helped me so much.
Brought you to the pit.
I just love Remission. I've always loved it. Like, I knew it wasn't going to be my top pick, though. I've always known what my top pick is. But the 2 and 3 were hard for me.
2 and 1 was hard for me. As you'll see, probably with some surprises along the way. Because I mean, I also enjoy their first record. Like I said, my biggest problem with that first record is the drums are way too high in the mix.
There.
I feel like the guitars are taking a back seat, and I think they knew right away that this dude's a monster. He's a selling point, and we're going to make him bash this thing, to success. And it happened. So, I mean, it's not that they made a bad choice. It's just when I listen to this kind of metal, I need to have that guitar on an equal playing field with the drums. Now, bass drums are so low to bring that up in the mix, no problem. Snare can destroy shit. Hello, Metallica's Black Album. The snare is so goddamn loud in that fucking record, it overpowers everything. And then you add cymbals into that, a little too much. Although I kind of felt like the toms were pretty well done, but just a little too much kick and snare, a little too high on that record. Actually, the first couple records, honestly. And I'm a big fan of the Leviathan records. So for me, my number 2, like I said, this was so fucking hard. Again, you got to remember this out there in Black Flame Land. This is a band that never really made a bad record. I just think that they've made records that grab people differently who are fans of them. Some people are going to gravitate a little bit more to their later catalog. Some folks are going to be a little bit more towards what they started with because that's what they fell in love with. I mean, that's just how it goes. But as artists, they grow. So for this record, just honestly, I think what stole my heart was the brilliant leads. A lot of those, intro riffs, some of them are clean, some of them, are obviously distorted throughout some of these tunes. And they almost like sing a song of their own without the vocals. But the vocals, I think, really kind of complement the guitar work that's going on throughout this record. And the drums are absolutely astonishing. It really is a breath of fresh air, like I said, when a drummer who's in a band of this caliber is not relying on double kicks to really destroy along with, bone crunching guitars. And like I said, I mean, in this case, still very intelligent riffing. Just, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know what the hell they was listening to, but damn. Super creative, very exploratory, if you will. This one is Blood Mountain. So, and this was one of the ones I had to like listen to twice. So I knew it was definitely like I said, I mean, I've heard it before, but since we were going back through the catalog, I actually went through it twice. I was like, this shit is just so fucking good.
Yeah.
All the way from the stories, throughout the lyrics. Trying to find it here. There you are. And it was like what, their second or third record?
Yeah, their third studio album, not without the compilation. I think 2000.
That's right. And I actually think I referenced one of the songs earlier. Crystal Skull is a primary song to say, holy shit. This drummer is just tearing it up flawlessly like a Mitch Mitchell on fucking steroids and hitting harder than most extreme metal drummers do. You can tell by the attack. You can tell by the well-defined accents that you're hearing. Sleeping Giant, Circle of Sasquatch, I guess is the way you say that. Fucking amazing. Blade Catcher, God damn it. Even the opening track is fucking just fantastic. The Wolf is Loose. And the one that I could just chill back to is Hunters of the Sky. Just a fucking gorgeous tune. Like I said, the guitar work on this record alone, I think, is one of their finest moments, and that's why I chose it for my number 2.
It's an excellent choice, outstanding choice. Not going to argue with that at all. Amazing. My number 2, and after this, I have to run and grab my charger real quick. So when I disappear.
Oh, sure. No problem.
So my number 2 is Leviathan. And here they've matured. They've refined the vocals. Their riffing, their production is a little bit better than Remission as well. Super intense album. The bass, Troy's bass is really nasty and dirty throughout it and really punchy as well. This is the album that most people, when I watch reviews, they say this is the top. And
I almost put that as my number 2.
Obviously, I love it, but it's my number 2. It's amazing. The songs that I love the most, there's 3. Megalodon is
Megalodon.
so good. And this album reminds me a lot of the doom metal band, Death Doom band Ahab.
Yep.
You feel in the ocean for a lot of the tracks. Not as good as Ahab, because Ahab's a little bit more atmospheric, especially in their last album. But really feel like there is a theme. This is a concept album as well. And it's super intense, just the way they've written these songs. It's just stunning. Just absolutely impressive. Megalodon, Sea Beast, and my favorite is Hearts Alive. That song comes in at 13 minutes, 40 seconds, and I'm not bored for one of those seconds. It changes, it speeds up. It's beautiful, slow, melodic. It is lyric, just outstanding.
Such tasty guitars. And that is definitely something that's been prominent on all of these records. So it's been a constant from the beginning. It's just, depending upon who's engineering the record makes all the difference in the world, because if you can't hear those little intricacies that are going on while you have these like fucking trash can smashing drums. You know, like the drummer of this band. It's like it's hard to hear some of that stuff sometimes. You know, our ears are not exactly, I mean, unless you're trained to pick shit out, it's hard if you just, you know, long day after work, throw a pair of headphones on and listen to a song. You know, even back in the 80s, there would be times where you throw the headphones on and listen to the same album for the fourth, fifth time. And suddenly you're like picking up on all new shit. It depends on, you know, how well you're able to hear things. Got a couple comments here. Leviathan is like a high five to the face. Yeah, definitely. Mouse Bong. Definitely. Megalodon is such a party song. Yeah, of death. And that's just the way we like it. So couldn't agree more on that. Oh, man. So we've come to the number ones. But before we do that, there is something new that I have conjured up from basically next to nothing that I think you might all enjoy, and that's my new project that I have unearthed. So just going to take a quick commercial to this little teaser of what's to come. If I can. There we go. And that's all you get. Can't let the cat out of the bag too much. But that's my new project, Circle of Nine. Check us out, Facebook and Instagram. You know what to do. It ain't that hard to find.
It sounds
good. Oh, go right ahead.
I like that guitar work in that it's really kind of dissonant in a way, but not dissonant. It sounds out of tune, I think, on purpose. I like that kind of dissonance. And then your Tasty Fills are doing something totally different and occupying a space. It sounds pretty unique.
I'm really excited for you to hear the rest of it because it is definitely, it gets very much funeral, but it also gets a little bit of black metal at the same time. It's I handpicked these three guys for a reason after what seemed like a forever search for people local. So unfortunately, the serpent is lying coiled for a while. So I wasn't going to just sit there.
Hell no.
I can't do it.
So would this have anything to do with the 9 satanic statements, the Circle of 9?
It's part of it.
All right. I love the 9 satanic statements.
The other fact is it got its name from the inner sanctum of the Church of Satan, known as the Circle of 9. They were 9 handpicked higher upper echelon members of the church that were dedicated to forever study on ancient Satanism. We'll talk more about that later. But here we go. Now that we left you on a cliffhanger. So number one pick. Mine is probably going to surprise some folks. Probably, I don't know, just because it's newer. But when I heard this record, and this was another one, I had to do it twice. First of all, production value finally hit those guitars like it was supposed to be done, in my opinion, from the jump. Now, like I said, every engineer is different. Who knows what they were hearing at the time they did some of those earlier records, and that's fine. But man, the guitars have never been chunkier. So thick, like you're eating a fucking, what is it, a 1,000 grand bar, where the caramel is so thick, you know, you got to like chew 25 fucking times just to get one bite down. Chunky chugs, like that is my shit. I love it when it's so thick and so, it's almost like the sound of dark bones cracking. That's what I love about this record. So sludgy, and thicker, but they didn't leave out the progginess, that proggy goodness that usually when you hear a band that sounds like they do on this record, they don't do nothing proggy. It's just very straightforward. There's nothing straightforward about this record. And that is, if I can get my pointer over here, God damn you, I'm going to kill you. Here we go. Emperor of Sand. Just, man, that fucking cover gives me the chilly willies in the best of ways. And everything that comes after that. Plus, I love that period history that they're kind of like going through on that record. I just really love the sound that they got on that. Sure, the drums are not nearly as busy, but this was, again, it tickles another side of my palate that I really enjoy. So a band that I already dig and kind of feel like this is not so out of my wheelhouse that I couldn't enjoy it. It's not like I feel like they're like faking it, I guess, if that's the best way to say that. It seemed natural. And it definitely seemed like it was on purpose as well. But that progginess that's still in there is so reminiscent of some of the earlier records. So that's why I chose that one as my number one, because I felt creatively they really hit a high on this record. Maybe for some folks, it's like, to them, that, you know, who's been there from the beginning, were probably like, this is so fucking different. What band is this? I'm sure there's people out there that feel that way. But the Sultan's Curse, how can you not dig that groove, that thick, fat, you know, Saddlebags McGee that's just slapping you in the face like a jelly dong in the middle of the night? That's that's how I feel about it. Precious Stones is also, I mean, just a great fucking heavy tune. It doesn't have like all the holes being filled like every porno that has ever been made, but it still makes you want to kill shit. Steam Breather, Word to the Wise, Ancient Kingdom, and Scorpion Breath. What a banger.
Yeah, this album was rated number one, like album of the year. I think Decibel magazine or Terrorizer, I think, called it album of the year.
Really?
There were a few others. This was in the top 5 of many end of the year lists. I think when it come out in 2016, I think it was. It's a great album. It does harken back and gives us a glimpse into something. I think some of the songs are kind of close to Crack the Sky, but it still has the kind of southern rock sludge kind of stoner feel a little bit more, but it's really like a perfect blend of those two, like the earlier era and then the previous 2 albums before this. And
that's
so
exactly why
they were kind of giving the fans both of what they wanted, because there were a lot of us complaining about the last 2 albums. Not that we hated it, but we didn't like the southern rock influence. That we wanted that intensity, that more kind of the kind of technical stuff. And
Yep.
still technical, but not like the previous stuff. But it's a really good album. It was my number 7 pick out of I think they have 9 out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the last one better than that. My number 6 honorable mention is Hush and Grim. It's a double album, and I really like that. There were a couple songs on this album that really harkened me back to like Blood Mountain.
Same.
Yeah. So my number 1 is Blood Mountain. That was your number 2. Great pick as number 2. And a lot of people don't pick this as number 1. It's usually number 3 or number 4 from all of the reviews I've ever watched. I love watching.
Interesting.
I love listening to what other people's takes are onto some of my favorite albums. And Blood Mountain has made my top 30 albums of all time. When this came, and I got it in 2006, right after it came out, like the first week. I also bought Lamb of God's Sacrament album, another album that made my top 30. That's my favorite Lamb of God album.
Oh, yeah, when they were good.
Yeah, I loved it. But this album, this was my album of the year. I listened to it. That and Sacrament, I listened to throughout the year, nonstop. I just changed one out for the other. I remember I bought it at Circuit City. I walked out and I put this one in before Sacrament. And I was just blown away immediately, right off the bat. And I remember MTV was playing some of their songs. VH1 was playing their videos because they had Headbangers Ball back in the 2000s, in the mid-2000s. And I saw it on there. My favorites off of here, although the entire album, this is a 5 out of 5 star album for me, from beginning to ending. So many favorites. I could only list 5 of them though, and I've always remembered these. Capillarian Crest, Sleeping Giant. It really does a sleeping giant that's waking up. It's a big song. This Mortal Soil is proggy, more kind of sophisticated and gentle in some aspects. And the Siberian Divide, just those are my favorites off of it. Every song off of it is so damned good. This is an album, whenever I see it, I have such fond memories. It's like watching Star Wars or Game of Thrones. I can go into Game of Thrones. I don't care which episode it is. I'm going to fucking enjoy it. Star Wars, I don't care. On the first 3 that were made, number 4, 5, pictures 4, 5, and 6 in the story. I can watch those at any time, minus the Ewoks. And I love them all of the time. So Blood Mountain, if any of you out there listening are not into Mastadon, go listen to any of their albums. They're all good. If you're more on the kind of Southern rock, then listen to The Hunter. Listen to, I think it's Once More Around the Sun, is it?
Yep, that's the more stoner.
Yeah.
Stoner metal record.
Yeah. Once More Around the. Yeah. And that one really does. Like, if any of them are doomy, I would say that one is the closest, but it is the stoner and the sludge aspect of it.
Now, you see, that's exactly why they end up kind of being on some of those lists, is because of some of those latter records.
Yeah. But thank you,
it's a slippery slope for most folks.
Thank you, Mastodon, for so many years of enjoyment. I love that band, and especially Braun Daler.
Very inspirational, and goes to show you that you don't have to play the fastest, most technical, or, just gimmick or anything like that. Just straight fucking good songwriting with a lot of heart, a lot of passion, and a lot of creativity.
My second favorite drummer of all time is Bron Daylor. The first is Gene Hoglan.
Yeah. Absolutely. So those are our picks. Like I said, every major band like this has their divided fans. Those that like the latter part of their career, as far as their creativity. Some people want them to stay right where they began, and that's okay. There's literally nothing wrong with that. But the fact is, a band like this, whether you don't like some of the other albums afterwards, you still listen to them because you still support them. And let's face it, you go see them live, they're still going to play a lot of your favorite hits. And that's what makes a good band, especially trying to meet their fans on a even playing field. Like, they do listen to you, because they don't necessarily, no real band cares about what critics say. How many times have some of the greatest bands ever, Slayer, Merciful Fate, any of them, and the critics were like, this is shit. This is just fucking terrible. Well, guess what? They have some of the most diehard fans, cult followings. Same thing as indie horror films, or horror films that bombed at a box office, but damn it, everybody, dug the shit regardless. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be that way. So
the movie The Matrix, that way, it didn't do great in the box office.
Right.
I love that movie. And that's a movie I can watch anytime. Let me come in. I don't care where, and I will enjoy me some damn Matrix.
That's how John Wick is for me. Fucking, it just doesn't matter. Or Johnny Mnemonic. I'm a huge Keanu Reeves fan. So, there's not much that he's been in that I don't dig. So that's it. According to us, guys, form your own opinions. Absolutely. But I bet you some of the records that we have said were our favorites are probably your favorites as well. And for those watching that have not really kind of delved into Mastadon's catalog, hopefully we've inspired you to check out some of the other records, old and new. Because there was a couple records we didn't touch upon, which are a lot more recent. Doesn't mean they're not good. So check it out all the way. We thank you for joining us. Yes, Oscar, I have been enjoying my usual this evening on this fine, malevolent Monday, as the Human the Hoof Beast as well. And definitely share this out to anyone that's a fan of this band, because I think they would really dig it. Or, as a suggestion to friends of yours that might need something new to listen to. And this is definitely an excellent band to check out. We appreciate you joining us tonight out there in Black Flame Land on this. Oh man, was it a Monday? That's for sure. Malevolent in every way. But we got a lot more coming up this week. Well, it's going to be late in the week, but coming Sunday, this Sunday, coming to the underground for the first time, kicking off Holiday Blasphemy series, is the awesome director, James Dean. Not to be confused with the James Dean of the 50s. This is James Dean, the indie horror director, famous for his latest flick that's just been tearing it up. He's been showing up at Days of the Dead Horror Con for the film Triple Xmas. I'll just let your mind wander on that. Chances are you've probably seen it if you're a fan of indie horror. And we're going to explore that film and his career on Sunday at 8 p.m. CST. So at the end of the week, before you start that next Monday commute, check me out. Reapers Underground, Sunday night, 8 p.m. All right. So as you are getting ready to fight the good fight for the second day of the week for your titillating Tuesday, keep in mind Danzig's lazy nipple. But the most important thing that you should always do is stay heavy.
All residents, go in and stay in your houses. Drive the rats in the tank area.